Welcome back. Speaking out has become a dangerous business in Sri Lanka. For individuals and institutions that seek to shed light on difficult issues such as human rights violations and corruption, the risks are great, as those who should be held accountable tend to occupy the highest seats of power. As a result, Sri Lanka's past has been checkered with abductions, disappearances and attacks on those with critical and dissenting views. In our next story, we take a look at an organization that has decided, even against this grim backdrop, to continue in its efforts to keep human rights on the political and social agenda. Its name, Samabima, meaning equal ground. Its purpose, creating a space for interested parties to discuss human rights issues and promote the continuing struggle towards achieving equal rights for all in Sri Lanka. Samabima began as a weekly supplement of the Ravia newspaper in 2008 and just recently published its 100th issue. It was to celebrate this achievement and two others, the launching of Samabima as an official website and as a monthly 40-page newspaper, that rights activists, civil society members, media persons and academics gathered at a common venue in Colombo. Samabima is the brainchild of a non-profit organization specializing in human rights advocacy, aptly named Rights Now. Founded in 2006, Rights Now actively engages in promoting human rights, raising awareness on rights issues, and highlighting instances where rights have been violated. The event also provided prominent activists with a platform to talk about the current human rights crisis in Sri Lanka.
So, civil and political rights, I think, are going to continue to be important, but we must show their relevance to all aspects of any kind of developmental program so that we can spread the relevance of rights to ordinary citizens who seem to believe or are in the process of being brainwashed into believing that a focus on rights is unnecessary, it's irrelevant, it should be left behind.
Other speakers focused on specific brands of rights violations, like the violation of women's rights, and stressed the need to recognize and give each and every one of them due prominence in terms of protection and advocacy.
ගෘහස්ත ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වය ස්ත්‍රී දූෂණය වගේ කාරණාවලදී අපි මානව හිමිකම් ක්‍රියාකාරීත්වයේ ඔවුන්ගේ කාරණාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් අන්‍යෝන්‍ය භාවයක් එය අපි එක සමානයි කියලා කටයුතු කරන්නේ.
Given Sri Lanka's record of being a country at war for the past 30 years, the existence of a culture of violence may be unsurprising. But since the war ended, many feel that there has been no real move by authorities and law enforcement institutions to improve the situation.
Human rights is not considered as the grammar of governance in this country. It is seen as something alien, something Western oriented, something as an intruder to our national sovereignty. So it's a kind of an outcast at this moment.
Disregarding human rights breeds violence and intolerance, a tendency that worryingly appears to have bled into society at large. This was particularly evident during the recent uproar over international singer Akon, who was ultimately denied a visa by the Sri Lankan government because one of his music videos was seen as insulting the religious sentiments of the country's majority Buddhist population. Protests against his entry into the country went as far as an attack on a leading media institution by thugs linked to a government minister. Still, this particular stand was not taken by the state alone. Sri Lankans expressed their displeasure even on Facebook, on a page that over time attracted over 22,000 fans. Religious intolerance has been an issue for Sri Lanka in the past, but the Akon incident, as well as that of Sarah Pereira, are two recent and disturbingly extreme cases. Bahraini resident Sarah Malini Pereira, originally a Buddhist but now an Islamic convert, was arrested on the 20th of March while she was in Sri Lanka. The author of 2 books on conversion to Islam, titled From Darkness to Light and Questions and Answers, Sarah was arrested on the grounds that the books were disrespectful to Buddhism.
I think there's a trend or tendency that extremists take upper hand, and the state apparatus are actually either supporting or just acting, giving them impunity. So I think this trend has to be stopped. To stop this trend, I think the moderate elements of the society must come forward. They should say enough is enough, that this is a democratic country where we have to uphold democratic principles.
Religious intolerance, lack of freedom of expression. These are just a few of the rights-related problems that pose a threat to the ideals of fairness and democracy in Sri Lanka. The Rights Now Samabima initiative hopes to ensure that these issues continue to be spoken about in a way that will pressurize those in power to change the way they view and address human rights within the country. The success of the initiative will mean relief and protection, not only for victims of violations, but for every single Sri Lankan.